My light's broken, but you're live.
Great. Okay, good morning. I would like to call the Municipal District of Taber, February 17, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting to order at 10:34 a.m. You have an agenda in front of you. Do you have any additions or deletions to this agenda?
I'm just kind of been thinking about the last few days, maybe adding budget talks and the mill rate, like with some of these changes that have been made, how it's going to affect our budget and the mill rate, just to even a refresher for me as well.
Okay, council, would you be open to that? That would be a more or less led by us, but to have an understanding of what we've approved in term, and we would add that as 5.9. Okay, so with that, go ahead.
I can accept the agenda with the addition.
Right. And any comments or questions? Those in favor? That is carried. Okay, declarations of conflict, pecuniary and/or conflict of interest.
Maybe I'll just say that I don't think I have a conflict or pecuniary interest with the land management strategy. Is just what we're going to do with the expiry coming up on us at the end of February.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll continue on with the confirmation of minutes from the December 9th, 2025 Committee of the Whole. Looking for a motion to approve or make any changes.
I can make a motion to accept the December 9th, 2025 meeting minutes of Committee of the Whole.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Those in favor? Okay, council, I failed you again. I had it written on my book, but not on my agenda. We have a counselor joining us online, another counselor who indicated he has somewhere he needs to be later in the afternoon, and another counselor who has a noon hour meeting. Would you be open to a half-hour lunch? Do you think that gives you adequate time, Counselor Tory?
Well, I'll probably be a little late, but I'll jump on as I'm driving back.
Okay. Council, how do you feel about that? We don't have to make it by motion. We can evaluate once we get there as well, but I just wanted you to be aware. And because we know that the counselor joining online must leave at 1:45. So I was trying to provide more time for his attendance as well. Okay, we will continue on then with number 5, policy and programs. 5.1, brand modernization.
Thank you, Remy and Aga. So this particular agenda item speaks to brand modernization. Again, it's kind of introducing the project in the form of a presentation that staff will provide here shortly, just to kind of provide a primer as to the impetus behind it. A couple of driving factors under rationale, section 3 of the memo. It does kind of reference that what we're trying to do, or what we think would be good practice or good consideration for the MD of Taber would to consider things that actually reflect the current reality already. So a lot of us, I'll make the boring example or the boring analogy of policy development. A lot of our policy review and development that we participate in reflects kind of current practice and current reality. So we've tried to take the same approach to this particular initiative and referencing brand modernization and what we feel or what we hear within the community as current reality. What people already call the MD of Taber, how people reference the MD of Taber, and how the MD of Taber has evolved over the last few decades compared to the 1980s when this last brand was either updated or revisited. So with that, I'll just kind of, the other primary driver behind it is kind of looking at this at the same time as we implement an economic development program within the MD of Tabor, something that's also new. So trying to dovetail the two together so that there's, I guess, a consistent approach and capitalizing off the project. As referenced in the memo, the project has been prioritized in the budget. And we wanted to just provide this initial presentation to provide a little bit more context for council to potentially have discussion on it and hear at the very least administration's perspective. So with that, I'll pass the presentation to our communications officer, Carly Grant. Our economic development coordinator may also speak from time to time as well. To Carly's chagrin, I might interject here and there without giving much warning. So I'll give her the benefit of the doubt in terms of my interruptions. So I will pass the torch to Carly. Go ahead.
Good morning, Council. Today we're here to present an important step forward for the MD of Tabor, an initiative focused on modernizing our municipal brand and strengthening how we connect with residents, businesses, and partners. This work is about clarifying who we are, improving recognition and communication, and ensuring our identity reflects the values, growth, and opportunities within our region. We will walk through the vision behind the initiative and how the refreshed brand can support community engagement, economic development, and the municipality as a whole. Excuse me. Branding matters because it provides a clear and recognizable identity that reflects how the municipality communicates and presents itself today. A modern, consistent brand helps residents, businesses, and partners better understand who we are and what we represent while reinforcing trust and credibility through a professional and forward-looking image. Strong branding improves communication and public engagement by making municipal messaging more accessible and cohesive. It also supports economic development by strengthening the municipality's visibility and recognition at both the local and regional levels. When approached thoughtfully, refreshed brand fosters a stronger connection to the community and supports long-term engagement and confidence in the municipality. When discussing the need to modernize the MD of Tabor's brand, it's helpful to begin with a visual identity. The current logo is quite complex, featuring 7 colors and a small, hard-to-read font, which makes reproduction challenging and increases costs. Updating the logo creates an opportunity to simplify the imagery and better reflect the municipality's current values, growth, and the evolution of the local agricultural industry. Brand clarity is another important consideration. The MD acronym is often mistaken for medical doctor, and there is ongoing confusion with the town of Tabor, which can affect recognition and communication with residents, businesses, and partners.
So interjection number 1, sorry, Carly.
Yeah.
Now,
No.
while it might seem a little bit trivial that medical doctor or the MD acronym is referenced, again, we're just reflecting what we hear on actual regular basis, not occasionally, but a regular basis when the municipality recognition is brought up. And oftentimes people will also leave off the district side of the district side when they think they understand what we're referring to in terms of the municipality. So then they'll call it the municipality of Tabor, which then speaks to, oh, are you a town or what are you? And then eventually that conversation evolves into we're the county and oh, okay, we understand what you are.
Okay. In everyday conversation, the municipality is frequently referred to as the county, as ours was just mentioning, highlighting the importance of ensuring the brand aligns with how the community naturally understands and refers to the MD of Tabor. So modernizing the MD of Tabor's brand is a strategic approach, or strategic opportunity to improve clarity, enhance recognition, and better reflect how the municipality is understood by residents, businesses, and partners. Aligning the municipal identity with commonly recognized naming conventions can help reduce confusion and strengthen public understanding. A refreshed brand signals adaptability and responsiveness, reinforcing a contemporary, forward-looking image. It also supports clearer, more consistent communication, improving engagement and connection with the community. Beyond functional benefits, a modern, relatable brand enhances external appeal, supports economic development, and positions the municipality in step with regional and provincial trends and current municipal branding practices. And so several nearby rural municipalities have modernized their brand identity and visual presence while transitioning from municipal district to county. We have 3 examples. The MD of the MD of Foothills refreshed its signage and visual identity in 2019 as Foothills County, improving recognition and clarity. The municipal district of Big Lakes became Big Lakes County in 2015, supporting a more contemporary and cohesive county-level brand. And similarly, the County of Lethbridge undertook a rebranding initiative in 2013 to 2014, introducing a new logo and updated materials that modernized its agricultural municipal identity. So the MD of Tabor's current branding has several limitations that reduce its clarity and effectiveness. The existing logo is outdated, overly complex, and multicolored, making it difficult to reproduce, hard to read at smaller sizes or from a distance, and ineffective in black and white applications affecting signage, digital platforms, and printed materials. Its imagery no longer fully reflects the municipality's modern economic sectors, which can give an outdated impression of the region. Additionally, the MD of Tabor designation is sometimes confused with the Town of Tabor, and the MD acronym, again, is often misunderstood, creating barriers to clear communication and engagement. Together, these factors highlight the opportunity to modernize and simplify the municipality's brand, creating a more representative and recognizable identity for residents, partners, and the broader community. The MD of Tabor's current identity has several limitations that reduce its clarity, versatility, and overall effectiveness. The existing logo is complex, multicolored, and contains fine details that are difficult to read at smaller sizes or from a distance. Contrast varies depending on background. It does not reproduce well in black and white, and consistency across print, digital, and signage is a challenge. Additionally, the imagery no longer reflects the municipality's modern economic sectors, and the MD of Tabor designation is obviously confused with the Town of Tabor. I'm just repeating myself now. So modernizing the brand provides an opportunity to simplify and strengthen the logo, creating high contrast, versatile design that is legible in all applications, clearly communicates the municipality's identity, ensures consistent professional representation across all deliverables. So modernizing the MD of Tabor's brand offers a range of benefits. A refreshed identity reflects current values, industries, and vision, helping the municipality feel relevant and approachable. Improved visibility ensures the MD stands out across print, digital, and social platforms. A professional and cohesive brand supports economic development by attracting investors, partners, and visitors. Community engagement is strengthened as residents better connect with a clear and contemporary municipal identity. Simplifying visual elements such as the logo also increases cost efficiency and ease of reproduction. Together, these efforts position the MD of Tabor for sustainable growth, stronger stakeholder relationships, and consistent modern presence. So updating the municipality's name to Tabor County offers several strategic benefits. From an economic and organizational perspective, the term county is widely recognized across jurisdictions, providing a clear name alignment and clarity. It also improves community familiarity, making it easier for residents, businesses, and visitors to reference the municipality in conversation and communications, which strengthens engagement. From a strategic standpoint, adopting Tabor County positions the municipality for future growth and competitiveness, clearly positions the municipality for future growth and, where am I now? Clearly differentiates it from neighboring jurisdictions and external stakeholders. Finally, this adjustment signals modern governance and supports a broader effort to revitalize both visual identity and messaging, reflecting a municipality that is contemporary, approachable, and ready for the future.
Another perspective or continued perspective along those lines is the county side of things actually re-emphasize and continues to emphasize the rural nature of the municipality as well. Even from a continental North America perspective, county is widely recognized as being a rural/regional municipality.
Whenever I try to explain to my relatives, find a position, I also have to you know, like nobody has to do what I'm talking about. So yeah, I mean it's
And again, it's just referencing in the context of modernizing, not an actual name change. Just calling us what we are and what everybody else calls us.
So Alberta has 63 municipal districts, with most, about 3/4 now using the county brand, reflecting a shift in naming preference over time. Between 1986 and 2021, the population grew in the MD of Tabor by 41%, with immigration numbers more than doubling and the labor force increasing modestly. Employment patterns have shifted from primary and manufacturing industries towards construction, transportation, healthcare, and education, highlighting the region's transition to a more service and knowledge-based economy. These trends are important for understanding community growth, workforce planning, and future development priorities. So intended outcome, this brand modernization initiative is focused on improving clarity, consistency, and long-term positioning rather than making purely cosmetic changes. Strengthening the MD of Tabor's identity helps address ongoing confusion about the municipality's role and better reflects its responsibilities in governance, economic development, and community engagement. A clear and more recognizable brand supports communication with residents, businesses, and external partners while also enhancing efforts related to investment attraction and regional advocacy. The modernization process can be implemented in phases to manage costs, maintain service continuity, and allow council to guide the scale and timing of implementation. I think that's.
Yeah.
That's
So
it.
again, the purpose of the presentation was to introduce more so the why behind the initiative or additional why behind the initiative. As mentioned earlier, it's been prioritized in the budget. Next steps for administration would likely to be to seek out a little bit of additional professional capacity for the development of some of the necessities for brand modernization. I'd also expect an element of a small community engagement, right? Whether it be through probably something as simple as a focus group to garner a little bit of community feedback and perspective. Again, getting more into the granular side of project implementation. But we wanted to kind of share some of our perspectives as well as answer any questions that council might have and garner any additional feedback that council might have in committee of the whole context. So we're open to questions or thoughts or perspectives specific to modernizing MD of Tabor brand.
Mhm.
Have you been using AI a little bit to help with design stuff?
We haven't even gotten into design side of things. AI
Oh,
might
your
AI might be a little bit beneficial,
It's okay.
but we definitely want it to be a made in this community solution.
John?
So I think we set aside a budget for this, did we not? I'm just wondering
Yeah.
what that number is and if that's going to be sufficient to proceed.
Yeah, I think what we have in the budget now is sufficient. Another driver is kind of at the end of this process at the end of kind of the development process. The larger portion of the budget is more focused on physical investment in entrance signs to the municipality. So we want to make sure whatever we do will be implementable for the next little while, at least foreseeable future. So before you make the large investment side of it, we want to make sure that council's okay with what is right now or what will be in the near future from a branding perspective. Does that answer your question, John?
Yes, it does. So we've got something for development here, but for implementation, it's probably take maybe 3-4 years of investment to get finished.
No, I think you budgeted.
No, but I mean, in order to implement everything with signs and everything else, or is there enough budgeted to get the job complete?
There's enough budget to do everything.
Okay, thank you.
What level of involvement do you anticipate an external service provider assisting through this project, or is most of the work going to be done in-house?
I think we would rely on external service capacity for things like the small community engagement side of things to brainstorm with, as well as come up with potential design of new logos or options to consider, as well as, again, I'll sound like a bureaucrat here, but as well as like a brand strategy. They would probably help us establish that, which I don't think it would be humongous, but it would help us establish the procedural side of utilization of the brand. Those kinds of things that the MD of Tabor has never really engaged in before is where we would rely on those services. As far as implementation, it would ultimately come down to administration to implement wherever we land. But I don't know, hopefully that answers your question.
Just one other question. Do you anticipate going through just a request for proposal process to select your outside service provider?
A request for proposal or a request for quotation, one of those two. I don't think, it just depends on what we think it would cost. I don't think it would cost or hit the threshold for a request for proposal requirement. It's about 30,000 that we've budgeted for contracted services.
Ernie, did you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, are we also going to consider putting a sign like you go on the number 1 towards Calgary, it says Wheatland County, and a nice big sign when you get into their county. Are we considering something like that for us too?
Yeah, what the budget contemplates is like once council's landed on a brand, we've considered four of those, so 2 on each major highway, essentially Highway 3 and Highway 36.
I haven't fought under this banner very long. I'm new to this job. The change is kind of hard I mean, I'm sure there's some older people, but it does make me think about when the Canadian flag was changed, and some of the old timers, like they did not like that modernization. They fought in the wars underneath, kind of the modernized, or the Canadian version of the British flag, right? And but I'm sure glad we did it. Like, I love the Canadian flag, and the simplicity of the international recognition that we have from a simple, the maple leaf is such a universal brand identity for Canada that's powerful. Anyway, I just had never even considered all this, but it is a very complicated one that we have right now. So it's kind of exciting. I just had never considered it, but you guys have been on council for many terms. Is it going to be hard to change
I'm all over the county of County of Tabor because County of Lethbridge, Newell County, Cypress County, people don't know who we are. So if
Right.
I'm at a meeting, I'm always correcting
Yeah.
myself. So that I could see. You know, I always thought it was a bit unique that we were the shape of our municipality because it's quite unique, but only we know that,
Exactly.
right? Like that isn't known across.
Mhm.
So I'm open. Of course, I think there'll be some change, but you know, it's time to be progressive, and a rebranding to me isn't about a logo and a color and a name. It's about who we are, how do we identify, what do we want our residents to embrace, and how do we want those outside of our municipality to see us. So it's way more than just what the pin looks like.
Right.
Marie, go ahead.
Yeah, no, we've talked to previous council about updating our signs, I think, since I got on, so I think this is a good opportunity and a good idea myself.
Arliss?
Maybe I'm putting my foot in my mouth in here, but perhaps to Councillor Tory's comment, I'm sure, I mean, just my understanding of human behavior, for sure, you'll have traditional folks that resist change, but I think if we're sensitive to the historical legacy of the MD of Tabor, that anything new can consider the historical aspect of the municipality as well, both the history and the future.
I think a lot of our, regionally, a lot of our marketing is already done for us. As soon as you bring up Tabor, they think you're from the town of Tabor, but beside that, everybody in, especially the southern Saskatchewan, BC, Alberta, all recognize Tabor for the corn. And so a lot of the heavy lifting's already been done. Being able to disseminate between us and the town of Tabor, I'm not saying it's a bad thing that they confuse us, but it's nice to have that differentiation. And I at first didn't like Tabor County, but it's starting to grow on me, and I think that is where we should go.
Arliss?
Yeah, and again, today we come to committee of the whole, and tomorrow the name is slightly different. It's a process, and it's going through the process, but again, it's simply modernization.
Martin, did you want to weigh in on anything, or are you good? I'm just not seeing your, oh, there we go.
I'm good for now.
Okay, thank you. So I've, based on, oh, Ernie, yes, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna say I do like the old logo. I understand the reasons for changing it, but I love the colorfulness of it, you know? But I'm not against changing it at all, in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, I think that gives administration some consensus building from council that we want you to continue going forward. Would you like a motion to start the investigative process? I was trying to, you know, when I look at it, it's an introduction, but I know you have next steps.
Yeah, next steps is really to kind of implement the budget. So the fact that it's in the budget gives us the introduction to move forward with the project. There'll obviously be continued touch points with council as we go throughout that process. But the next steps is to get a little bit of additional capacity to help us, and then start sharing some of those ideas as they're developed with council. So.
And I think council, well, I know council appreciates being kept in the loop, seeing the changes so that we don't get too far down a road and then all of a sudden it's not. So I think it's good.
For sure.
So I think that on that note, we can continue on. Was there anything else from Caitlin or from Carly that you'd like to share with us? And council is happy to give you the floor through our list.
Yeah, I think perhaps Caitlin, first off, Caitlin could just speak to, I guess, from a timing perspective, as we implement economic development, it works well, but I'll let her speak to that if you want, Caitlin. A couple of thoughts.
Yeah, thank you. No, I just, thanks Carly for putting all this together and we collaborated on this. So I think it speaks to both of our portfolios and I think it's an opportunity to, like you were saying, reflect on how far we've come and also to get excited about what the future holds for the MD.
Thank you.
Any last comments, Carl? Good.
Okay, it's exciting to rebrand, and I appreciate that all three of the administrative comments has been a reflection on where we've been and where we're going. I think that's always very important. Okay, we will continue on then with the agenda.
Yep.
Okay, the 5.2 AGM logistics.
Yeah, so we have the AGM scheduled for April 23rd, 2026 in Grassy Lake. Some of the ideas, something you'll see every year with respect to the annual general meeting and the memo that we bring to council in terms of confirming topics for that meeting is whether or not we feel it's a necessary continuation from a public engagement perspective. Administration will always ask that question and council will always answer it however they wish. Council of the day will always answer that however they wish. But as far as in the context of continuing as per status quo, we under section 4 of the memo, position of administration, we have, at this point, we have 4 ideas. Some of them are rather traditional. One that is traditional that likely won't be ready for it because of the date is presentation of the audited financial statements. They likely won't be approved by council until after that date. We're also open to other ideas if council, not open, we're looking for additional topics that council might want addressed at the annual general meeting.
Yeah, I know many of you have attended the meeting before, and so we usually start off with an introduction of council, and then administration follows those points. It has been nice historically to have the RCMP detachment give a little bit of an update. It allows people to meet him and in a different, less formal than side of the road time. So I like that. And then we've given our staff an opportunity to touch point on different projects. But I think the most important part of the AGM always is that we give our residents an opportunity to ask questions of our staff and ask questions of council. We try to be very careful on how we deal with it so that we're speaking to policy rather than just our own perspective. And then also to give people a chance to have informal conversations after. We have a coffee and donut type of format. And it used to be we would spend over an hour to an hour and a half on administrative delivery. I believe that's too long. I think it should be half an hour to 45 minutes so that the purpose is for our residents. And we used to do the, as it was indicated in here, the audited financial statements. We went away from that 3 or maybe more, 4 years ago. Things were kind of in an upheaval of dates, right? It wasn't upheaval of the audit, upheaval of dates. And so we couldn't get that. Those statements are still available for the public and at any time to for them to query, but we didn't focus as much on financial. And from those of us who kind of polled the attendees, that wasn't why they were there. They were there to get an update on the MD, ask questions of administration and the council. But at this time, if you have certain things you would like addressed specifically, this is the time to bring them forward. Or if you would like a different format, this is the opportunity to have a discussion on that. Council usually sits in the front row and looks like they're in a firing line, but it's our administration who actually does the heavy lifting. Yes. No. April. In Grassy Lake. Yeah. Lane.
Two items I'm wondering if there would be interest in having some conversation about. One would be just introducing the fact that we're going to be going through the rebranding exercise, just provide a bit of an overview. Here's what's being considered and why. The other one, would it be appropriate to start having some conversation about the inequities in the taxation system and what we're going to be tackling next as part of an effort to try and bring some balance to that.
Like on the second point there, Councillor Johnson, just kind of broaching the subject and garnering feedback maybe more than anything.
Just to let them know that this is on our radar and that this is an area of focus that we're going to be zeroing in on in 2026.
So my only cautionary, I think the branding, both of those items, my caution is the same. If we're not ready to, if council hasn't seen it and ready to roll it out, it's a risk to roll it out before we've given any level of sanction.
Because that's an image that'll stick in their mind.
Well, and I think council should always be part of that process. But, and that doesn't mean it's finalized. I mean, it can be sent out to have a discussion point, but council better at least have endorsed what those discussion points are. Go ahead, Lee.
So on the branding, I was just thinking the presentation that we just received as council, there would, in my mind, would be no harm in providing that similar information in a AGM setting so that those in attendance understand what's being considered and why. We're not going to have a concept or a brand ready to introduce. It would be way too early for that. But just let them know that this is a process that we're going to be going through. There's going to be an opportunity for the public to provide input on it. Just the more information that's shared, the better, so that it takes people, it reduces the chance for people to say that we weren't aware or haven't been informed right up front.
Potentially even just emphasizing that it's a project that's on the docket.
Yeah, I think even 2 slides could probably do what you need to do, kind of why. And, I mean, there's some great slides in there, but just a real short, but just that they get, oh yeah, we're looking at this.
Council, I'll look just for a head nod on that. We will probably make a motion at this, but I think introduction of branding. So I think that's reasonable. And on to the next point. Lee.
So maybe instead of the taxation one, if we're going to have the RCMP there, it would kind of provide an opportunity to have, segue into the discussion on the fact that we're now having to pay for policing and that there's going to be different options that we need to be looking at as to how that service is going to be provided in the future. Touch briefly on what the history has been. Rurals have traditionally not been paying for it. The model has changed. Some decisions are going to have to be made. Just let them know again that this is one of the things that's coming at us as a community and needs to be part of a bigger discussion.
I totally agree with everything you said, but not the RCMP doing it. Just keep them separate. And we've seen the struggle that they had in Cyprus by a couple of comments. So we have to make sure our comments are tight, which I think we'll get down to when we're discussing 5.8. So I think, again, I would look at more of the financial constraints on the municipality that we're seeing over and overly increasing. And police funding, the education line on our taxation, housing, so people understand that the taxation challenges is daunting. But I think the language has to be careful. And again, perhaps I've become cautious, but I've seen where we've opened things up and it's not always gone as we thought it would. But more on the demands on our budget. Would people be more open to that, just so that we can kind of touch base on that? David?
If we put it later in the agenda, RCMP would probably already be gone, or they would still be there.
Generally, they stay so that people have a chance to chat
Right.
with them. This is not a undermining of the
Oh, yeah, no, no,
RCMP,
I just didn't
but
want
I
it to get
think the cost,
controversial, but
I
it's
mean,
gonna
we've
be.
seen in the today's agenda, right? $1.2 million that we're adding to our taxation. So it's not a secret by any means,
Yeah.
but we also haven't had, and I'll go so bold, not clear indication from the province how municipalities should trend forward.
Yeah.
So those, I think the budget demands and external budget items is good. Other items that people want to carry on, and the criticism we received in Vauxhall is we spent too much time talking and not enough time listening. And so then we were there till 10 o'clock at night, trying to listen well, but people were tired, of course, by then. Any other items besides those 6 that we're kind of proposing? Administration, does that give you enough guidance?
Yeah, so very, very generally, not to get into the details of what the additional topics are, but branding modernization, policing alternatives, and monetary impact, and then future property tax considerations. Does that capture the additional feedback?
Okay. Would you like a motion to that effect so it gives you something in writing?
Sure.
So committee of the whole suggests that AGM follow the similar format as past years and include local RCMP detachment presentation, presentation of finalized land management policies if completed, infrastructure project update, Grassy Lake subdivision project, introduction of branding, municipal branding, and 2026 and future taxation implications. as they're finalizing that memo, as things come up between now and April 23rd, this is not stuck in stone, right? If there's something significant, we can ask for a change. We don't provide a time, we haven't provided a time for counselors to address the group. We're available for people to ask. But again, if that's something you wanted to change, we could. Just wait for Arliss to have a look. Yeah, I'm fine to make that motion. It's quite basic. But any additions or any changes? Any questions? Yes.
I'm just wondering, should we set some time aside in the agenda for a Q&A?
Yeah, it's,
Just an open comments from the public?
and so I guess the one word I put in that isn't quite here was to prepare an annual general meeting to follow the similar format as past years, which has an introduction by council to introduce people who are there. Then administration took the mic, gave their presentations, including the RCMP, with being cognizant of the time. And then the main part should be Q&A. That's how, like, there, to me, we just came off of a very successful Vauxhall Coffee with Council. And although this is AGM, I still want to have that opportunity for people to bring forward concerns. I mean, I'll give you an example. The last time we were in Grassy Lake for Coffee with Council, we had some confirmations or verifications on the drainage, which we took back to our admin, who then included that in the project. You know, there's value to take from residents. We are all not in those spaces all the time. Okay. Does that work for Elaine now? Okay. So with the motion that is in front of us, any questions or comments? Those in favor? That motion is carried. And for those who are new to council, what we have done is once the meeting was done, those slides were made available on our website so everyone could have a look at them.
The slides presented. The slides presented at the AGM.
Correct.
Okay.
Just so that if
Yep.
you weren't able to attend, you still had an opportunity to know what was being discussed. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a financial reporting policy. This arises, there was some discussion at council.
I think you might have missed.
Oh, did I miss? Oh, sorry, 5.3, did not mean to miss that. My brain is already on money. Land management strategy.
Did
Now I'm really,
Remy and Egg, I apologize. Did I miss? Was that last resolution voted on?
yes,
Okay, thanks.
I moved it, we
Perfect.
voted.
Thanks.
Okay, so land management strategy, lease expiry acknowledgement. I will turn that over to Arliss.
So this particular topic, I think something that both administration equally as well as council are aware of the expiry date of the tax recovery grazing leases. February 28th, 2026. So those agreements do expire as per their established end date. So given that the policies were opened back up and they're not yet finalized, we need to provide some sort of stopgap in terms of recognizing current leaseholders in the context of whatever new policies are adopted. So that's what the proposed first resolution contemplates. And again, perhaps in an effort to try as best as we can, administration model good governance. We're not looking necessarily for the resolution at today's Committee of the Whole, more so in the context of February 24th council meeting, but this gives ample time in advance of for council to consider. Again, administration trying to, where they can, model good governance and not spur of the moment resolutions. The second potential resolution that council could consider, and that's just more so from a perspective of trying to actually achieve efficiency and actually getting something done, would be to formally conclude public engagement, so that you can actually do what you're elected to do and make policy decisions. So that's the impetus and perspective behind the second proposed resolution for council to consider at the February 24th council meeting. And again, the first one did obtain consultation from the MD of Tabor's legal counsel. The second one was from yours truly, more so in terms of just trying to actually get something done.
So council, in the recognition of the importance of this, I'm going to dull you with my voice and I'm going to read both of them because I want to make sure that you have understood the two options that are being proposed. And Committee of the Whole does give us a chance to hear the words, try and bat things around, right? It's a committee meeting. It is not a council meeting. It's an opportunity to discuss. So buckle up. Here we go. Number one, that any tenant whose tax recovery grazing lease expires before the new grazing lease is adopted will be treated when entering into a new grazing lease with the MD as though their lease has not expired. The intent of the resolution is to ensure that tenants and recently expired leases receive the same rights under the proposed grazing lease policy as tenants whose leases remain in effect, which will also be subject to the new grazing lease policy. For clarity, this resolution does not extend the term of any expired lease or grant any right of renewal. Should also be noted on page 1 of this document that the following lands are to be exempt from the leaseholder status acknowledgement as they relate to separate decisions of council. 1, Scope Reservoir project lands. 2, Dead Horse Reservoir lands. 3, land scheduled to be sold once the MDT land sale policy is approved by council. Northwest 26, Southwest 26, Northeast 27, Southwest 27, Southeast 27, 714 west of the 4th, and Northeast 9, 12, 18 west of the 4th. The second motion for your consideration and recognition that neither of these motions are obligations. These are motions that council and Committee of the Whole will make and refer to council. So, and they can have word adjustments or total content adjustments. So the second option that's being proposed, that the land management policies, cultivation policy, grazing policy, and agricultural land sales policy, public consultation and engagement to be formally concluded. For the purpose of this resolution, public engagement and consultation sessions include such and similar activities of 1, public engagement and consultation information sharing sessions, council meeting delegations specific to the aforementioned land or related land policies, committee meeting delegations specific to the aforementioned land management or related draft policy, call for people to speak portion of council meetings or committee meetings, if even procedurally applicable, with regard to the aforementioned land management or related draft policies. Written submissions received after the 17/2026 addressed to the municipality specific to the aforementioned lands or related draft policy The intent of the resolution is to formally recognize the plethora of public engagement and consultation opportunities and feedback received for the purpose of developing the aforementioned land and related policies, related draft policies, and further to focus council efforts on finalizing the related draft policies and associated draft agreements. So first one is the opportunity to have leaseholders have rights after the leases have expired. The second one, an opportunity to have a motion on the books that outlines what we have been doing for these last number of years as we go through the land management process. So at this time, I will entertain a discussion on how you see this proceeding, and I will take whose ever hand goes up first, but then I will also ensure that everyone is asked if they have a thought on how this should proceed. David.
So this would be considered on the 24th, these motions.
So everything at committee of the whole always is referred to council.
And so there would be probably some time at the beginning of the 24th if delegations did come forth. But after the 24th, as far as land, is that what we're saying, or?
So how I read it, again, my interpretation, and Arliss maybe can speak to what his intent was, but when I read it, the consultation was open and we've asked for written comments up till the 17th, and that stuff would form the body of how we are going to make our decision. This document that's in front of us is not on necessarily the land management policy, but on the lease expiry acknowledgement and how we would proceed. Because currently the leases expire for grazing February 28, 2026. So there is an opportunity with those exemptions, 1, 2, and 3, then that the leaseholders still have the opportunity to be involved without putting their leases are over.
Right. Yeah, no, and I like a lot of it. I'm just wondering if we're not making these motions until sometime in the meeting on the 24th, if there still is an opportunity for people at the beginning of the 24th, if a delegation or a person wants to step up to the mic, we're still doing that, or we're trying not to have that happen?
Well,
So
go ahead,
can I speak?
Arliss.
So what again, what I'm contemplating quite candidly is, yes, these are proposed for council to consider at the February 24th council meeting. So if stakeholders don't feel like they've had enough opportunity over the last 2 years to provide their feedback, then I guess theoretically they come and give their last minute.
Yeah, and so the 20, yeah, I mean, obviously it's got to end at some point, and we've got to start, making the decisions. But
if you're not done by the 24th, then at some point you actually have to move forward.
Yeah.
The mere fact, and I say this as respectfully as I can, the mere fact that administration is presenting that second resolution kind of implies there's already a governance malfunction, that we've had so much public engagement that it's almost paralyzed us to actually move forward in policy development. So I think it would be good to be able to do that, just in the sense of getting something done.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't prohibit counselors from continuing to have their conversations off the record, outside their truck, whatever they're doing now. That would be silly to try and prohibit, but just trying to bring some sort of procedural consistency or process to finishing those policies.
thank you.
And then the first, if I could add, the one that acknowledges the lease expiries, just from a perspective of trying to be somewhat logistically efficient, why extend everything when you're going to be having new ones in a matter of months anyway, right? That's a lot of extra I guess you could call me lazy, but it's a lot of duplication of work. If you're gonna extend something, you have to do it right, so.
Yeah.
Okay, council, I will take any comments or questions from any member of council. Go ahead, Lane.
No, I appreciate these options being brought forward. The first one clearly sends a very strong message that people are still going to have their rights once we are in a position to move forward with new leases. The second one, I understand that there is a need for us to at some point say we've got the information that we need and it's time to move forward, make some final decisions and proceed with implementation. I think that this is a step in the right direction and time to move ahead.
Thank you.
Now, do I understand this correctly? Is it either or?
No, it would be and,
Okay, fair enough.
or neither, right? Like it is up to committee of the whole to make that decision, but they're very distinctly separate. Okay, not seeing any hands right in front of me. I will, I'll just tell you the order that I'm gonna go to for those who haven't spoke yet. Murray, John, Martin. And you don't have to, you can waive if you choose to. Murray.
No, it's time to get this decisions made and move on because we're dragging this out a long time, but with all the public consultation we've had, we should be able to move forward from council meeting, I hope.
Thank you. John.
I agree with most everything that's been said. So are we looking for a recommendation motion to council, or is that not necessary, that this is gonna show up regardless?
If we follow the practice of our committee of the whole, it's a motion of committee of the whole recommend to council.
Just,
Lane.
can,
Oh, go ahead.
I just want to like, it would not necessarily be these specific resolutions, but just be forwarding the memo to council for consideration. Like,
Okay, for the
these
memo.
are all at council's discretion, no matter what. It's just administration trying to help council get it done.
For sure. Lane?
I do have a question regarding other items that will be on the agenda for the February 24th meeting. Do you anticipate bringing forward the actual policies that we have been discussing? And would there be a time on the agenda for the February 24th meeting for those amended policies to be considered for approval?
Yeah, so I guess how I envision it we'll have our information with respect to the most recent public engagement there for council's consideration and review. And then we'll have the 3 policies on there for continued discussion. It's tough to put, at least in their last state, the continued discussion from their last draft state, because I can't hunch where council's gonna land,
But it's conceivable that council would be in a position to move ahead with approving amended policies on February 24th.
right. It's conceivable. I mean, yeah, I can't say it's not conceivable, but it would be very miraculous if it was. I'm trying to find the right, just because I would like any amendments that council makes to see them in amended form before they approve it. If council's comfortable not seeing them in amended form before they approve it, then that's where it could happen, right? We might be agreeing, but not understanding each other the same.
And I guess personally, I'm hoping that we're going to be in a position to have the proposed amendments before council for consideration and approval on the 24th.
So for clarity's sake, proposed amendments as in what I think council wants to change?
Those would be the amendments that were specifically reviewed last week when we were at the shop and went through the presentation.
So the current draft,
Correct.
right? What we prepared for the purposes of public engagement. Yeah, that can be at that will be at the council meeting in that format.
But I mean, I've been pretty clear. Now I'm just speaking in my role as a counselor, not as the chair. I won't vote in favor of the financial. I won't vote in favor of the policy based on the financial, and I'm very much working the math on what was proposed by the Old Man Lease Association. And so I think that would be unfair to leaseholders to never have seen that. But I'm trying to do the math to see how close to what the plan is, and on the sales part to have a better understanding of those who want to buy the sales. And so I agree, sometimes it feels like we're in a 2-week, well, we are in a 2-week pattern, but those are the criticisms we heard even on Coffee with Council, that they want to have time to vet it themselves. And so, you know, I'm with you. I'm ready to be done this, but I won't vote in favor in the format that is being proposed. I have my own, I will make a motion to change the lease price.
Councillor Johnson, did my response answer your specific question about what you'll see on the 24th? You'll see the copy, you'll see the clean copy of what was presented last week at the engagement night. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I'm hoping that council will be in a position to review the amendments and approve the amended policies on February 24th. I'm hoping that we don't have to bring them back yet again after February 24th.
And the amendments you're referencing are as they currently are. Okay. Sorry, I can be a little.
No,
quick, I guess.
knowing that there still may be some further discussion and additional revision prior to approval.
Right.
But my expectation is that February 24th is when we're going to be able to discuss, debate, approve, and put this to rest.
I believe that opportunity will be there.
Kate, I'm going to go to Martin just because I had told him he was in the wing. If you had something you'd like to add, Martin?
Sure. I agree with Councillor Johnson there. We can make some amendments to it and see where everybody stands, I guess, and go from there. And also, some stuff got presented here in the first part, so I'm thinking if somebody wants to speak on the 24th, I'm not opposed to them speaking on the 24th, just with new stuff brought with the first part. So otherwise, we're going to have to start off the meeting with saying they can't talk, I guess. But I think we should have the open to the public like we usually do on the 24th, and somebody wants to speak, let them speak. That's all I got.
I agree with you. Why would we change format? But it just, you know, at some point, I also understood when I read administration's motion, but I agree with you, Martin. Unless we're going to remove or adjust how we're going to do public engagement, I don't think this is the time. So that's another committee of the whole discussion if we so choose, but I agree with you, Martin. So at this time then, a motion to recommend the lease expiry acknowledgement memo to council. Oh, I'm sorry, John.
That's all right. I was just going to make a motion
Okay.
that the committee of the whole recommend that we send the land management strategy memo to council for consideration.
So just so I'm clear, land management strategy lease expiry acknowledgement memo?
Yes.
That's what everyone heard? Okay. We'll get that through. They just want to, yeah, I just want to always give due time. I've got myself caught a couple times learning the hard way. John, does that meet your expectation?
Yes, it does.
Okay, I'll read that motion in. That committee of the whole recommend recommend the land management strategy lease expiration acknowledgement memo to council for consideration. Any questions? Those in favor? Those opposed? That motion is carried. Okay, just for those who might be watching Committee of the Whole, Councillor David Torrey and Councillor Martin Condor are currently online because they have other commitments, and so they're fully allowed to participate in council meetings online via the MGA, so it's no issue at all. 5.4, financial reporting policy.
So this policy is before council or committee of the whole as a result of council resolution pushing it there. Again, we didn't prepare anything from a perspective of proposed amendments or adjustments, more so just obtaining feedback from council on what they'd like to see with respect to financial reporting policy moving forward.
So that you're aware, the policy, the financial reporting policy came through Committee of the Whole, then through Council, and it was made effective April 22nd, 2025, with some significant changes, but it has been requested by Councillor that we bring it forward for discussion today, and so I will turn that over. If they had wanted to bring certain points forward. Right now, we used to, just for point of reference, have documents and reporting on every once a month on council meeting. I can't remember if it was typically the first or the second council meeting.
I think it came along with whenever the CAO report was presented, which I
Okay.
think is
Thank you. And we've chose to move to quarterly reporting. And we made a few other adjustments, perhaps through our list to Mike, could just highlight some of those significant changes that were approved in April.
yeah, the significant change would have been that moving it from a monthly to a quarterly report. Included with that was providing information related to the budget variances for the capital and operating budgets. Prior to that, it was figures were presented without detailed analysis or any look at why the differences were made, and it was kind of up to council questions to ask, well, what's here or there, and what's or any notable items that need to be addressed. Where now the management team, supervisors all go through their budgets and provide any updates as to why there's a variance of we use about a plus or minus 10% as to where we expect to be in the year. So if we're in at June 30th, we're 50% through the year. We expect to see budgets expended approximately 50%. So within that plus or minus 10% then they're not delving into those areas. Anything outside of that window, they're looking as to why those expenditures aren't in line with where we'd expect those expenditures to be. Sometimes it's, you know, in January, we pay the full amount for this contract, or we don't pay this until the end of the year, so we're not seeing anything there. Or maybe there's just, you know, maybe we see those expenses happen later in the summer, just with the way of the flow of work happens. So it gives them the opportunity to look at their budgets and then provide that commentary as to why there's the variances out. Some of the other areas that we include on here that were in the past, we're including things like the bank reconciliation reports that were previously included, and then some of the areas related to overtime and to the counselor's expenses. And then at the year-end one, we also provide a reserve balance that was not previously included on that. And so ultimately, from my perspective, whatever it is that council wants and needs to have the information that helps them govern and helps them make decisions, then we're ready to prepare that. Some of those, but I'll caveat that with some of those desires may be limited by what systems are able to produce. And we look at, as we're implementing a new system right now, we're looking at and seeing at what things can be, you know, if there's ideas that you have, we can look and see if those ideas might be able to be implemented and see what we can produce. But there are certain system limitations to what might be desired.
The other caveat to that would be privacy, security or controls related measures based on provision of some of the information. Not that council can't see it, but the context in which they see it.
Okay. Council, this is your opportunity. If you thought you had some suggestions or would like to see some changes, and again, that doesn't finalize or definitely change the policy, but we could start the discussion, and then it would come back to committee of the whole as a draft policy or proposed changes to the April 2025 policy. Go ahead, Lane.
I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity for us to consider the level of detail that's being presented in an effort to try and streamline things for administration and simplify the workload. Is there some information that you are providing right now that takes a fair bit of effort and produces limited value for council when it comes to our role?
Part of the answer to that is also a question back.
Yeah.
Part of the answer to that is also a question back to council as well. In terms of what value add information is, do you folks feel help you within your role as counselor? Preparing them on a quarterly basis significantly reduces what was or what used to be, but also in the same context that it also incentivizes department heads and CAO and managers to know their budget and to actively manage it. So it's a little bit of the way it's set up now from a quarterly perspective, specific to the budget reporting, is a bit of a killing, what's the phrase? I can't think of it right now. Killing two birds with one stone. There we go.
So personally, I'm questioning the need for us to see the bank reconciliation reports. I question why we would be looking at expenses for unscheduled overtime. Overtime it's a staffing matter. I don't know that there's any value for us in having that information provided. And if there's an opportunity to streamline and reduce the level of information that's coming forward, I see those two items as being things that could be eliminated.
I would, I guess, disagree with that. I think financial transparency is pretty important. one of the things that council has authority over is the budget. And to have firsthand information of how that's disseminated and seeing everything is so important. Whether it's used or not is another thing. But having it available to us is very important. And it's been scaled way back from when I first got on council as we were inundated with information. It's a way more concise and consolidated, but still has all the information that we need. And allowing for less information, I don't think makes us make better decisions.
Any other thoughts on this? For me, I guess I have a bias because we worked through it to get to this one in April. Things that we really changed at recommendations from other outside organizations, and I thought it was valid. Excuse me. Make the check runs available to council, but not in a public format, so that we can still see where the dollars are spent. It doesn't reflect on us where we're at in our budget cycle, but if we had a question or concern, that hasn't been removed from us. Excuse me.
Plus, we can go through that on our own time.
Right.
I
Go ahead.
I guess, and that information is available. We can review it, but it's not something that administration has to spend time preparing reports and submitting it for council consideration and approval during the council meeting. The bank reconciliation, that has nothing to do with budget parameters or anything else. It just is telling you what moved through the account. And there's no value to that, in my opinion. But if council feels strongly that these things are something that we still want administration to be focusing on, spending their limited amount of time on generating, and we're doing very little with it, then carry on, I guess.
Yeah, I've never seen us rebuke any financial statement. Like I kind of went through it after I got this memo and thought, have we changed anything? The overtime and sick time reports used to come to us. There was some question, but actually those came to us through administration. They cued us. So then we were like, oh, we should be paying attention. I would say not recently, but those weren't just, I mean, we don't work here. We don't know what those look like. When that was brought to our attention, all of a sudden it became part of the reporting. So I suspect it was some administrative strategy at that time to bring those forward. So I don't disagree with your comments, but know that adding those items to the financial report, the only thing we did ask in the last one is to make sure, and I've just got to recall, I'm a bit foggy today. We asked in the quarterly that we also saw the accounts, the detailed accounts, and we understood that that was a generated report, that they weren't having to generate that report. So we felt we could at least have an indication. And the rationale behind that was not because we were really auditing or monitoring the budget. It was to give us an indication of the project level of completion as well. Carlos?
I think to Councillor Johnson's comments, the topics like, or the reports of overtime and things like that, again, very much an administrative perspective, but those are captured in the budget reporting that already take place. It's just not singled out. I believe the existence of those reports are very contextually specific, kind of like the Reeve had mentioned at a given point in time, but I'm not sure. Generally speaking, the staffing aspect is approved within the budget, and it's referenced within budget reporting. unless council sees an additional value add on the overtime side of things or unscheduled overtime side of things, I don't see. I'm not sure where it lands from a governance role perspective, but that's just my perspective, and I tend to agree with where Councillor Johnson's coming from. Mike, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, yeah, to that as well. To one point on the overtime one, that is probably the most challenging report to produce, because that is when they enter their time, it doesn't delineate where that sits. And so previously, the report that was being brought was related to all overtime, scheduled and unscheduled. And the thought process back in April or so was, if this is scheduled overtime, it's part of the budget. It's where it is. And it deals mainly with the extended hours over the summer months for getting the municipal operations work done. In addition, so on top of that, any additional work is usually related to something like a water break, maybe that someone needs hands on there, or if there's a snow event where they're out on those ones. But from a system perspective, we don't have a way to capture that apart from the unscheduled, the scheduled overtime, without taking those timesheets, jotting that down, and recognizing how many those hours are. The bank reconciliation reports, they were a more manually entered process before. We switched to a system generated one, so they provide the bank balance of what the accounts are at that time. And so those are I don't know what the capabilities of our new system will have for generating something like the unscheduled overtime amounts, depending on what things are. I don't know what that looks like yet. Whether that's easier, more difficult, or the same status quo as far as not being able to provide that without detailed analysis on those individual timesheets. And so, and one of the questions Councilor Johnson had was about what a value that we provide to you. That's where I think some of the questions we have is, what is of value to council, for what do you need to see, and what helps you with that, with understanding where things are at and providing the information to you, as well as being able to recognize that the time that it takes to prepare them and provide that analysis from the manager's perspective is just time away from doing whatever their other tasks are. But if this is one of their tasks, then this is one of the tasks to do, and to provide that information, which I think is, not to, I know I try to make the finance sound a lot more fun than it is, but it's it's one of those areas that it provides a lot of information and helps them understand their budgets, and then helps council understand where things are at as a whole. But we've tried to move towards reports that can be system generated, that don't require too many additional work hours to produce them, but there are a couple still that require that just as part of it.
Yeah, I guess just my concluding comments on this. There's information overload. We need to decide what's critical for us to make decisions, and it's nice to have information sometimes, but if it's not adding value to the decision-making process, why is it being generated? Particularly if it takes time out of administration, when administration can be doing other things, focusing on other higher priority matters. I really think that there's a need for us to look at how much information is coming at us, because we're not able to filter through all of it with any level of effort that should be expended on it when you consider the amount of time that goes into it. The other principle that I think all of us need to focus in on is being lean in what we're doing, simplifying as much as possible, eliminating duplication and wasted effort that doesn't add value. And this is an opportunity to start taking some steps in that direction if we don't think that it's adding value.
Do you want that through a motion to start to make some changes? Do you want to have it as a motion that as they implement the new financial system, that we may revisit the financial reporting, because maybe some things make sense? It was demonstrated to us at 2 And I'll have to look to Murray to remember better, but when we were at Cooley Cafe, they demonstrated what they did in Vulcan County so that it's very public on the finances, and maybe that would be something we would move towards as the reporting. And that was generated from the system that they were using so that others could have access. But I think there's a few different approaches we could take to this as well.
I'm all for openness and transparency, and if the system is capable of just generating automated reports that don't take time and effort, by all means, crank them out, and whoever wants to dig into those, have at it. But if it's taking time to do manual processes just to provide information that no one's really digging into, I don't think there's value to it. And if council is willing to, I would suggest that we refer this to council, and so we can provide some clear direction on what we can have administration focus on that is core.
Yeah, so I'm actually struggling a little bit today, and I'm trying to parse through a few things that have been said, not necessarily on this item, but historically we have made specific motions from committee of the whole to council for discussion, and not necessarily, like, to me, to refer this memo, we're back to square one. So what are we referring to council? And I'm open to it. And maybe we aren't quite ready to refer to council, and we'll have it at another committee of the whole. But I'm struggling that we just refer this memo. Now we have the same conversation without any indication of how our staff would like to even, or what we expect of our staff. John.
Just wondering when the new financial software will be fully implemented.
We're anticipating, if things continue moving, by the end of March. That's the date that we've been given. I'm anticipating maybe a little after that. And then in conjunction with that software, we are also bringing on a different reporting software and updating our budgeting software to match the new chart of accounts. And so to have all three of those systems up and running, I'd be looking more towards probably in the springtime, May, June. This changeover also inhibits the ability to produce the first quarter report because the information is not being shared to different systems until we have those pieces in place. So it's an ongoing. We're in the process of doing like a phase one of the financial software. It's the core portion of it, and then there's a few more the payroll and a citizen-facing aspect of it in the coming soon. Within this quarter, ideally, I should be moving forward. That fully implemented, I would expect by the end of May or in early June, with all those pieces to it.
So with that, would it be better, I guess, to wait and see what the capacities are of all these systems working together, and then decide how the reporting might look? I'm asking council that question.
I don't want to answer on behalf of council, but yes and no. Council doesn't use the software, quite candidly. But what we could do, I mean, committee of the whole could suggest administration use, I guess, a lens of streamlining and perhaps simplicity to review this policy and bring it back for further consideration. I think if council has that desire to see that, we can review it, and then council will have something to debate in terms of moving forward. And that might include naturally, Councillor Turcado, that might naturally include consideration of what the capacity of the new software provides. But rather than, again, the purpose and intent of bringing this was to get some feedback on what may or may not be valuable for council and what might facilitate them in their governance role. So I think we've heard some good feedback there. we can take some direction to use that, use streamlining and simplicity as a lens.
I can see the value of waiting until we have this software all up and running and see what it can generate rather than giving direction right now. But I appreciate what Lane is saying. I think there's value in that. But when, if we're in the middle of new software, that's a lot of extra work and we don't know where we're going to end up. I've been in this with the gas co-op, so I have an idea.
So perhaps a motion to bring the financial reporting policy back to committee of the whole following the implementation of the new financial software to, and that doesn't capture exactly what Lane is indicating, but Lane, I'll leave the motion to you, but just trying to get something moving on the floor. And we can eliminate things right away off the gate, out of the gate, if that's how you.
Not sure where to go, because I know that Ernie has suggested we hold off. Arliss had suggested another direction we could look at going. I don't want this to be something that I push on council if there isn't a degree of comfort with what's being discussed and considered. I just think it provides an opportunity for us to look at how we're doing things and to streamline where possible. If there's a need for us to hold off a little bit, so be it. But I am hoping that we don't lose track of this.
Yeah, that's the reason I'm pushing for a motion, because otherwise, if we don't have a motion, it falls off the books. So whichever direction we want to make, but I just worry if we don't put a motion in, then things fall off the books. And we can keep the timeline open, but I think that's been the tone of this council, have something on the books.
Okay, I make a motion that we postpone a financial reporting policy till the new software for billing is in place and staff is comfortable with it. And then we revisit this issue.
Yep.
And we can modify what's here in front of us too to make that fit. I don't mind.
Just double check that, Ernie. I think that actually is very close to what you said, so just have a look.
That sounds good to me.
Okay, so Councillor Peters moves that the Committee of the Whole direct administration to present the financial reporting policy to a future meeting with additional information regarding the reporting capabilities of the financial software once implemented. And I think to Committee of the Whole. That way it's just to future Committee of the Whole. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Any questions or comments on that? I think they've captured some of the essence of this conversation. Those in favor? Those opposed? That motion is carried. Okay, it is 12:13 right now. Are you good with taking a half an hour lunch? Yep, okay. So we'll take 30 minutes recess, resume at 12:45. I will text Martin and thank you.
So where's your red sweater today?
I have it. Yeah, I have it. And plus, my grandchildren on my daughter's side are Chinese,
Yeah,
so
everybody.
it's the first day of
a good
Chinese
idea.
New Year, so then more important to wear red.
You're the horse.
Okay, we'll resume the MD of Tabor February 17th Committee of the Whole meeting. We're moving now on to 5.6, Bylaw Enforcement Policy. Oh,
the
I'm
assessment, yeah.
seriously having trouble today. Assessment Review Board bylaw. Wow. Can tell my mind is.
Thank you. So the draft bylaw that is here before committee comes to us on recommendation and suggestion actually from the Old Man River Regional Services Commission, who deliver the Assessment Review Board service, I guess, for when there is an appeal on the local level. And I will refer any additional detail presentation to Lace, who prepared the memo.
Yeah, so our current ARB bylaw was last reviewed in 2020, and since then there have just been a few amendments to the MGA that require revision to this bylaw. Majority of them are administrative. So to summarize, the designation of the clerk, chair appointment requirements, panel composition, and the record keeping and decision-making requirements. So nothing related to the overall function of how the board functions, but more so just administrative. So the bylaw has been revised to meet those requirements.
Thank you, Lace. It's good to make sure we're in compliance.
And again, not really, this isn't looking for any sort of reading, just referral to council for further consideration and readings.
Okay, council, is this clear to you what this is asking? If you don't have any questions, then we can make a motion to refer this. Go ahead, John.
I can give you the motion that the Committee of the Whole recommend that the draft Old Man Regional Services Commission Regional Assessment Review Board bylaw be forwarded to council for further consideration and approval.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on the read-in motion? Seeing none, those in favor? That motion is carried. The bylaw enforcement officer policy. Thank you, Lace, for preparing that bylaw for us.
This particular policy, ultimately the suggestion and recommendation from administration is to consider cancellation, primarily because there's some redundancy that is provided through what's referenced in the memo as the bylaw enforcement community standards services memorandum of understanding. That the service is provided through a shared service partnership on a regional basis with Town of Tabor and Tabor Police Service, and kind of renders I'll call it the old policy as outdated. Bryce, do you want to add any more detail there?
No, just that that the MOU does address all of the key elements that were in the previous policies, so they've been addressed in the new MOU.
Okay, council, I'm open to any questions, and if no questions, then a motion to remove the bylaw and, well, recommend to council to cancel the bylaw enforcement officer policy.
I can make that motion.
Thank you, Ernie. So Ernie makes the motion to review the bylaw enforcement officer policy. Recommend to council to remove it. Those in favor? Those opposed? That motion is carried. Commercial vehicle inspection level of service discussion.
So this particular matter is before council as a result of some of the initial budget discussions or budget deliberations that came up in 2025, fall of 2025. So this was referred to a bit more discussion around particularly weights and measures and whether or not that's an additional level of service that council wants to consider. In terms of potential changes from what currently is, so status quo. The current reality is that it's delivered, if you want to call it delivered, it's provided through simple partnership, although not formal in any way, partnership between law enforcement agencies with Alberta sheriffs. So more on a request basis with that provincial agency. But I'll let Bryce kind of speak to a bit more detail that might spur additional committee discussion.
Yeah, thanks, Arlis. I would just add that the current scenario that the model that we follow right now, we provided some feedback from operations just to gather operationally how effective we are in delivering that service to the region, to the MD of Tabor road network and such, and protection of our road network. The challenges that are faced that were worth highlighting were primarily focused around the timeliness of the delivery of the service, the ability to respond to changes in traffic throughout the MD of Tabor, and next day service was identified as a desired solution for being able to enforce what we're calling the commercial vehicle weights inspections, weight inspections. The timeliness, as well as just the fact that there likely will be more and more requests for this service over time. It's certainly a concern for the municipality with our infrastructure, our road network being a very critical piece of infrastructure for the MD of Tabor and for municipalities, rural municipalities. It's something that we expect to be getting more and more requests for this service. There was a couple of options that were developed in collaboration with Tabor Police Services. Just talk about options that could be delivered in the region. We broke them down into 3 options, and that was intended to just provide some of those costs, as well as some of the costs and benefits to each of the different options in the committee of the whole scenario, so that we could unpack each of the options and find out the desired direction of the municipality as far as going forward.
Thank you. So John, this was a motion made by you at the time. Did you want to speak a bit to it?
I'm just wondering, you say that the next day delivery service was identified. Who was that identified by?
That was identified by municipal operations as being a desired state for the service delivery. So we would identify a need and then have next day service delivery to respond to that need. Would be I would suggest it be the ideal in this scenario. That was described from operations. Yeah.
So if I can provide a little more context, might be over answering your question, Councillor Turcato, but kind of on a regular basis, we do seek feedback specific to that program, community standards by law enforcement. And that was some feedback that we received internally from municipal operations as it relates to roads, road maintenance, and impact of certain types of traffic at certain times of the year on roads. That's kind of the origination of that. And the reason why we seek feedback from time to time throughout the year is because there is a reference to an annual review in the memorandum of understanding or memorandum of agreement for the service. So we like to engage in that annual review with some internal feedback from other departments within the municipality. So probably over answered your question, but that's a bit more context behind why the feedback came.
Thank you.
is currently in the springs, when we put road bands on our roads, we don't have anybody to police them really. Correct?
Not, I would say not in as cohesive a way as we possibly could. Yeah. Right now, option 3 there, coordination with Alberta sheriffs, is what currently takes place. And that would be based on their availability, right?
That's correct, yeah. Yeah, based on availability and scheduling challenges that we faced, weather dependent, whether or not we can coordinate amongst other scheduled services that are being delivered in the region.
And they're probably just more primarily to the highways, not gravel roads or whatever too, right? I would think.
They will facilitate requests. So we request a certain position or a spot so that within the municipal road network, and they will facilitate through this cooperation. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So option 1 would, so the 50,000 I would take is to purchase the equipment, or is that for training, or both?
It includes the equipment, the training, storage of the equipment is essential as well. And then that includes the consideration for a replacement of that equipment as well. And so that is intended to be every 10 years that we'll expect that cost if we invest in that level of service.
Yep. And option 1, again, more intimately, that references more a reallocation of time. So you probably see decreased level of service on some of the value add and even potentially some of the bylaw enforcement side of things. But again, it becomes a matter of prioritization.
So in our current memorandum of understanding with Taber Police Service and the town of Taber, if we need further assistance in ad hoc or just add on for busy times or something like that, is there provisions within that to be able to accommodate that or not?
Specific to what, I guess I would ask.
Specific to need for bylaw or weights and measures, or so if we find that we don't have enough, is it possible to add on throughout the year, or does that need to be done through a full FTE, one full FTE? I'm just not sure what our contract, if there's any flexibility with it or within it.
You want to speak to that, please?
Yeah, the contract is focused on having one full-time equivalent, and so one officer full-time equivalent. There has been a lot of flexibility in scheduling, so there's been lots of scheduling flexibility provided by Taber Police Services, whether responding on weekends or in the evenings and those types of things. With regards to anything addition to one full-time FTE, so if there was a second required or support needed, that would be something we would need to take as a follow-up question in order to see if there was, I guess what I'm assuming is maybe a bit of a middle ground where we'd be looking at requesting it on a request basis. Is that what I'm hearing?
Or even a 0.5 FTE, if that would be possible. So then the cost would then, I would assume, to be less than 174,000 if we were to go to a 0.5 FTE.
Yeah, and that would probably require additional conversation with the service provider. It might prove challenging, like having a flex option over and above 1 FTE. I mean, putting myself in those shoes, it might prove to be challenging, but on the same token, it would require some conversation to better answer that question.
So when MD of Taber had their bylaw enforcement, whatever we were called, for a couple of years, we had someone trained to do it, but then they moved on quite quickly. But during that time, and I had no issues with them giving out tickets, because if I get a speeding ticket, obviously there was some reason, but it did create tension in the MD because now our staff were giving out weights and measures, and there was, that was always a bit contentious because for obvious reasons, actually.
Option 3, coordination with Alberta sheriffs, it gives you the same level of service, but you're at somewhat arm's length and not having to avoids the perception that you're speaking to.
Correct. It's just less readily available if needed. Yeah.
From an administrative perspective, and I did hear when you said, and I read, you know, it'd be nice to be able to have them at the next day. But is that what is deteriorating our roads? Do we need to do better education? Do we need to have one-on-one conversations? Are our residents just factoring that in as overweight as a risk of doing business?
Yeah, I think some of like specific to your last question, counselors being directly involved in the industry, I think could probably answer that question. Whether or not it's just the cost of doing business and they'll take that risk. Specific to road conditions, I'll let our director of operations speak to that. More detail. Corey?
We all know that the worst road conditions we have are seeding and harvest time. So those are the times that we see that intensive trucking effort. Now, are they overloaded? I don't know, but without this service, we will never know that.
And to be clear, this isn't a conversation about users being disrespectful about the roads. It's just the reality that that's go time in the industry, and it can impact the transportation network.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you brought it forward, John, it was because there's concern, but it's to try to find how do we best balance.
So I think this was brought forward is that there was a budget request for more than this. And I thought we could use this to I guess, flesh out what we really needed.
Through our list to Bryce.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
I just wanted to add too is that it was highlighted in the memo that we have had an education approach to bylaw enforcement. We really do try to have that as part of our program. And so the weights or the commercial vehicle weight inspections are intended to be part of that process of education. So it's just an education and awareness piece as well that we do have bans on our roads and the importance of that for our infrastructure.
David? Oh, I'll go to David, then I'll go to Ernie.
Okay.
Just when you're ready. David.
I just thought, can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's definitely a tricky issue in farming, and now we're in potatoes. There's just so much trucking involved. But I think there's a pretty serious effort. I know there is on our farm to try to be legal. Part of the issue is you don't always know, right? Like we don't have scales in the field, right? And you've got lots of multiple operators on combines. And we try to explain to them, if you just do one pile in each of the hoppers, then, you try to give them some basic training. But the most ag semi-trailers and that don't have as much of that, built-in weighing equipment as the big commercial truckers do. And so we just try to be careful because we know we can get caught. And I've been pulled over in the MD of Tabor near Purple Hill on Highway 3 with a semi during harvest time. And we were underweight, thankfully. And so we didn't, so I don't think farmers are blatantly being crazy, but to say that when the field is almost done and they want to fit it all on the last truck, that we don't run overloaded sometimes as a cost, as a risk of doing business. Yeah, I would definitely be, lying to you. But there is, and with the potato growers that I live next to and that, they do, they try to be legal. They know it can get really expensive. So anyway, it is part of the industry, and I guess having some more enforcement. I don't think any of us are crazy enough to think that that it shouldn't be, you know, checked and followed, or it will be abused. So anyway, thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. Ernie?
I'm smiling because I find myself in a bit of ironic position. When I was a lot younger and hauling sugar beets, the goal was to get the load so full, there was no room for one more beet. But I think farmers are more careful nowadays. I've even noticed my neighbors, they will pick and choose which roads they drive on with fuller loads to try and save the roads.
Thank you. Yeah, what do? So next steps?
Would it be possible to engage the sheriffs a little more often through the busy times and just see how blatantly overloaded people are?
Difficult to answer the possibility question. I mean, we can always ask.
So I guess, how many times did we engage the sheriffs to do weights and measures last year?
We did it twice. We did entertain, or did not entertain, but we did do something just to look at what would be possible. And we felt that probably around 0 to 0, obviously 0 or 6, up to 6 times a year would be probably quite realistic, where we could engage the sheriffs if we wanted to limit the service to 6 deliveries. And they would be dependent on availability, scheduling, and those noted challenges that operations brought forward.
And that cost would be how much to the MD of Taber?
Currently, that's in scenario 3. That is our current option. That's what we currently provide as a service level, and so that wouldn't have an impact on the delivery of the service at this point. Although I guess I would say that because we've only done the 2, as we get closer to that maximizing or optimizing that service, there may be some trade-offs in the year, just in trying to deliver that optimum 6 deliveries, but we haven't had an opportunity to exercise that as of yet. So there might be some learns there for us as we go forward.
As critical as sometimes I can be with respect to kicking the can down the road, there may be value just in the context of the next agenda item. Of not dissecting this particular level of service from a near future perspective when council goes down the road of considering whatever their comprehensive policing or comprehensive municipal policing looks like moving forward as well. But I think to municipal operations feedback and their perspective is that it does have an impact on roads, and that is in no way pointing fingers at anybody. It's just a reality. Just as with any policy or program, if we're okay with that reality, then we're okay with that reality, right? And that's fine. Just have to communicate that.
So John, do you want to maintain status quo? Would you like that budget item adjusted?
I'm not opposed to maintaining status quo for the short term, but through this, I guess, through 2026, and just see what falls out with other enforcement within the MD of Taber.
So maintaining the current budget allocation?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is 0. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, then I don't think we need to do any motion. We can just continue on and then just make a note that we'll follow up. Sure, why don't we then? It's there.
We motion to accept the commercial vehicle weights or the commercial vehicle inspection levels of service discussion as information.
Thank you. Any questions on the ready motion? Those in favor? Those opposed? That motion is carried. Okay. 5.8, policing alternatives and funding discussion.
Again, this was a previous resolution, I believe, from Committee of the Whole. That was made and carried by council today to at least have an initial conversation on the topic of municipal policing. Again, this is a topic I think we're all fairly aware. It's a topic where there's definitely budgetary impact, but on the same token, to look at potential comparisons or alternatives, there's very little information to use as a baseline to actually have an effective comparison or effective conversation around the topic. So it's difficult. But that being said, it's here on the agenda for discussion. Bryce has put together as recent information as we have from a monetary perspective, what the 2026 cost is estimated, and I can't bold that enough. It's an estimated cost that we've received from the province. And then 5 years later, the estimated cost as well. And I think it's important to keep in mind that as the memo outlines, 22% of that is being paid, 22% of municipal policing, as per this formula that exists or will exist or is being used to provide these estimates. 22% of the bill is on the MD of Taber, which that will essentially transition into 30% of the bill, 2030, 31, being paid for by the MD of Taber, which means over that 5-year period, you'll look at a 78% to 70% municipal policing costs being paid for by the province. And while it may not make sense at this point in time, I believe that is an absolutely critical figure and number to consider as we go down the avenue of municipal policing alternatives. If the province is prepared to spend that much money on municipal policing and the MD of Taber, we need to keep that in mind as we discuss policing alternatives, whether it be with the province or with RCMP through the province or potential regional, local alternatives as well. So, Bryce, anything to add?
I would only add that we expect a number of variables to play into the total cost of policing as well. So, as any research that the municipality does as far as delivering policing services, there will be the research will likely have a certain amount of complexity to the number of contributing variables, contributing factors, and even mandates. Mandates are required, whether it be through the RCMP nationally, provincially, and locally. So.
Another consideration as council enters this realm as well is the regional component, not necessarily specific to the town of Taber, but specific to the village of Barnwell as well as the town of Vauxhall. They're faced with similar challenges in that regard with respect to rising municipal policing costs.
This is where it gets kind of tricky. Is what should our next steps be? Because we need to start conversations with province as to what options might be available that the province is willing to help with. That's important. Like you said, if they're willing to pay 70% of it going forward, it's important to understand what service they'd be willing to invest in. And so does that need to come through administration, or does that need to come politically? How do those conversations start, and in what lane?
My approach would be, naturally as an administrator, would be for administration to kind of make those inquiries as part of some initial research to see if we can even get answers to begin with. If we can't get answers or we continue to come up empty, then you would probably push that into the political realm. But I mean, I think I would hope, and maybe I'm sounding a little too altruistic, but I would hope the province could appreciate that municipalities need to start planning for the long-term service of municipal policing. So I think I would think that they would be wanting to share what they can.
Yeah, RMA has definitely been advocating for municipalities to find out, and AM Alberta Municipalities has been lined up very similar. And at last report, and you can see their research documents on both of their website, they don't have an indication of next steps. So it is far from just us that is wondering what next steps are. But I have a level of reluctance to plow too far forward if we have no idea, because I'm not interested in 100% policing cost, even if we have control. But will they give us 70% and then we pay the 30 and we'll have a bit more? But even then, we don't know that.
Or even then, there could be again, depending on the context, depending on a lot of things, there may be a value proposition for the province to support us in alternative policing method to service delivery, right? If they've already committed to 70%, maybe there's ways that we can leverage regional partnerships, maybe, or a partnership with the province to only use that 70%. To me, that would be a starting point from a negotiating perspective. Actually, that should be the end point. But
so our list, from an administrative point of view, we asked for confirmation on the dollar amount and we didn't get too clear of response, but we have a bit more of a response now that everyone in the province received.
we have the estimate there, yeah.
Yeah. So how far do you want council to provide administration direction to investigate it, or are we on a holding pattern? And I guess there's some sentiment that there are other municipalities in the province looking at alternative methods already. And I hate for us to be not at the table, but also what ground are we willing to forge ahead on as well? It feels really awkward to me.
It very much isn't awkward, especially if you look at the potential alternatives out there. One being the provincial police force, whatever, and if that ever is a thing, which I think it might be. Or there's local, regional alternatives. Again, tough to go to that table if you don't have a baseline to negotiate on. So I'm willing, I guess, if council wants to go there without that information, we go there. But I think it's a key piece to having those conversations in a meaningful way.
So we can't really provide direction to, or can we provide direction to administration to proceed on this, or does that have to come from council?
I think we could carry on with just continued research and trying to get some answers and clarity around what, I guess, maybe what provincial alternatives exist. We may or may not get much action, but we can try. It's part of initial research. Bryce, do you have anything to add?
No, that would be.
Council might have had conversations as well amongst your networks that might add value to this conversation.
Might it also be worthwhile to suggest a meeting with Minister Ellis at RMA this spring, or even if it's not at RMA, if it's at another location or another time? Or is that are we getting ahead of ourselves?
Whether it's a meeting, whether it's a meeting or a request for what their future plans are, you can. I just don't know how effective that'll be, but
every municipality is waiting.
Yes.
And so, and different people are going face to face and having direct driving work to Calgary, meeting at constituency office. And feel they're in the same awkward spot.
It's quite the prioritized topic amongst, like Reeve mentioned, RMA and AM. And if they don't have a answer on next steps, then I'd be surprised we get it, but you never know, I guess.
It would be nice to know what they're going to be doing so that we can start making plans. But I think until we know, there's probably little point in us doing much of anything.
Right.
Because whatever they come up with could change whatever we are going to do. And until that's known, there's not much point.
Yeah, that's almost the starting point.
Okay, well, we know that you have your ear to the ground on this, and if there's things that as soon as you need us, we're happy. And I think many of us have had opportunities to discuss regionally, but with no indication and very much trepidation to give any thoughts. It is being discussed out there for sure.
I do expect regionally and locally, potentially even, that some may allege or claim they have the inside track on what's happening, but I think it's important to hear that right from the source provincially.
Okay, so maybe to receive this memo for information. Thank you, David. To receive the police alternatives and funding discussion memo for information. Those in favor? Those opposed? That motion is carried. Okay, we have 5.9. The budget and how the mill rate and we have an interim budget passed, how the mill rate process will go, and to have an understanding of any other implications of whether land management or whether police funding may have a role. And so, Murray, do you want to expound on this item a little bit?
I guess you more or less said it all, but like we passed the intern budget, and then after that same meeting, we had some motions that will have tax implications on the budget already. So just wondering if it might be good for me as well as maybe some of other council to just kind of get a look at the mill rate thing and how certain decisions could affect our budget bottom line.
I'll try to dive down. Try and dive down a little bit. The changes potentially to the land management rates. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think that the information that I have on my fingertips are just whatever's fresh from is that a week ago now, Tuesday? Again, in the draft stage, and are you talking specific? You might have just said this, specific to the land policies?
Right.
Like rates and revenue sharing and that kind of thing? I think it was a total budgetary impact of approximately 260-ish thousand, give or take 10,000. So I guess what that would mean is we would either through revenue generation or through expenditure reduction or a combination, just like I said on last Tuesday, we'd have to figure out how to make up for that. That's all. As far as mill rate impact and actual what that looks like for mill rate, we won't have the information to do that until after the end of February. Just to be completely candid, to at least to be specific about 2026 mill rates. Like we have the tool, we have a mill rate calculator tool that we include and forms part of the finalized budget process with council. But as far as like exactly what that looks like from a tax rate discussion, I guess that depends on how council wants to set mill rates across the board as well. But from a budgetary impact, definitely around 260,000. You'll have to find, or yeah, you'll have to find either through revenue generation or expenditure program cuts.
David?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think that the community lease associations, and it would affect the other ones, are totally fine with a 2.5 multiplier or whatever we need to do to get to that 25 or 26 or whatever we set. They just want predictability. They're not, and so I think we can adjust what was presented, because we just presented 2 times, to recover some of that money. They're not opposed to that at all.
There's also the oil and gas portion though.
Is that oil and gas factored into that 260?
Yeah, I think the breakdown is 147,000-ish oil and gas revenue sharing. And then 120,000 on the rate differential.
Marie?
Sure hope I have my rough math right. But
I just wanted to bring it up so everybody's aware when we're making decisions at next council meeting that there could be some implications on our budget.
Anyone else want to weigh in on the direction we're kind of moving with our interim budget? And then as we move forward, there is quite a detailed process that will come that administration will provide mid-March, our second March meeting. Is that what
Yeah,
you're anticipating?
that or earlier in April, yeah.
Right, so end of March, beginning of April,
Mhm.
as we wait on the assessment from the province.
Yep.
And from Benchmark.
I mean, it came brought, I think Councillor Tory just mentioned it. I don't want to belabor it, and I don't want to actually unnecessarily influence where council lands on rates from a lease perspective. But I can understand the importance of rate stability for leaseholders, stakeholders. But I also think there's similarly, there's a need for rate stability for the municipality as well. If that changes from year to year, you're going to be fluctuating the tax rate from year to year, potentially unnecessarily, when you could actually establish some expectation moving forward. It was actually brought up at Coffee with Council, not by me, but those in attendance, suggesting that I think it was previously 2610 as kind of like a floored rate, then you somehow connect it to the provincial rate moving forward, up or down, but not below the floor, so that you actually have year-to-year stability from a revenue perspective. But
Is that adequate? Okay. So I'll just double check since I've been all over the place today. Agenda, have we covered all of the items on committee of the whole agenda? Getting the thumbs up. And with that, reminder that we need to have our committee reports into you on Wednesday. It would be the desire, which is tomorrow. And for the February 24th council meeting. Any other reminders that are outstanding? If anyone has any changes, I know it's not at this meeting we do scheduling, but if you do have changes, please let Lace and Arliss know, especially for our May when we're booking those rooms and things. Okay. I see Murray and Lane are like seeing how fast they are. So one more agenda item.
Motion to adjourn.
Whoa, really mixing it